Hello, how's it going? Talking about life here, June the 19th, 2013. Uh, I just want to start off by going into something right now. The news, the media, the press, and the information we receive. Uh, the press was originally meant to hold the government in check. Uh, the idea was that the press would inform the people of what was happening. That would result in modification to the voting, and as a result, the situation would change. Well, even when Thomas Jefferson stated, he stated, he said, inform and educate the entire population. He said, and then there's a pause. It's dot dot dot, and then the next sentence was, "They're surely the only hope for the preservations of our liberty." Well, the reason that there was a pause there was because he sat there and understood that even at that point where the entire civilization is educated, well, first of all, that in and of itself is a difficult task to accomplish. Uh, but I do think there are some things that will possibly. Here's I'm just going to jump ahead real quick and say what will result in freedom and the reemergence of a republic, which is basically a rule of law. You have rights. You have certain rights that cannot be taken away, even if somebody votes in that direction. Because this isn't a democracy. It's often stated that this is a democracy. This isn't a democracy. This is a republic. And there's a difference. And the reason that there's a difference is because you have rights. You're a human being. What will result in this country reestablishing the rule of law is very simple. We will either reestablish the rule of law or we will all die. And that's not just a few of us, that's all of us. That's every single man, woman, and child on the face of the planet, and every other living thing on the face of the planet. The reason why is because if we don't, then society will continue to deteriorate. Well, we've got tens of thousands of nuclear weapons all over the planet. Between Russia and the United States alone, there's 26,000 nuclear weapons. But the point is that Rome collapsed. The bridges all fell apart. The aquifers, gangs took over, mobs, tribes, and local factions enslaved large portions of the population. And we collapsed into the Dark Ages. There was and then we started all over again once we got to America. But Thomas Jefferson stated that the natural order of things is that the government is for the government to gain new ground while liberty yields. And Alexander the Great, I can't remember what the quote was, but there's a phrase, something to the effect of, as soon as the government is established, it begins to fall apart. Well, collapse, deteriorate. The point is that this is what's going to naturally happen. The government will collapse. Power will desire more, and even if it doesn't, for fear of what the other will do, it will cause an avalanche effect, if you will, a snowball effect where others will fall into that, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Even if the people doing it aren't interested, it just happens. So the point is that this is going to stop this time, or if we do full collapse, which a large percentage of our bridges are collapsing. I mean, society is literally collapsing. The infrastructure is literally collapsing. But of course, the dollar's collapsing, inflation, and enslavement has reemerged through prohibitions, and gangs are thriving, violence, murder, and the rule of law is falling. As Einstein stated in relation to prohibition, you know, nothing destroys the respect for the laws of the land more than laws which cannot be enforced. Which basically what he's saying is you can never get rid of all the drugs, you can never get rid of all the alcohol. So in and of itself, it's a known fact. And he went on to say it's an open secret that the dangerous increase in violence is associated with this. What he's saying, not only is he saying that it's an open secret that the violence is a result of this, but he's saying is a result of this, is a result of what does he mean by this? This referring to the fact that it can never be enforced. So it's an open secret. Oh yeah, we know it can't happen. We know enslavement's going on. We know we're hurting people. And so basically that's the way it's going. And so as this continues to happen, as the rule of laws continue to be destroyed, one precedent after another, and once you undermine the authority of the Constitution in one way or another, there it is, undermined. So the point is that what you're doing is getting closer and closer to much more volatile control of the nuclear arsenal. Nuclear arsenal that can kill every man, woman, and child on the face of the earth. We could afford a collapse during the Roman Empire, and I can't say, relatively speaking. Okay, let me put it like that. Relatively speaking, we could afford a collapse during the Roman Empire. Of course, you can never afford a collapse. I mean, large swaths of the population just die. The advance of technology is set backwards in time, thousands of years. And innocent people get hurt. I mean, there's no one who wins. Even the guy who comes out on top, the dictator, because it starts at the top and then it's just like top down, which means basically that it is like a snowball effect. Once you get the control, the one guy believes that the other guy's going to do the same, and just that general consensus of thinking that, well, they could think the same way, it just consolidates the power in and of itself. The government naturally consolidates power into fewer and fewer hands until one singular party comes out on top, and even they don't win because technology is set backwards. Their technology is set backwards. Their way of life is set backwards. Nobody had any control. You know what I mean? The founders did say that only a moral Christian society will survive, and I think that's good because unless, as you can see, even if everyone has a desire for these things not to happen, there's got to be some kind of general consensus of morality, or at least acknowledgement thereof. But even in the Bible, you see these church-bearing individuals as being really the individuals who become targeted as the culprits of narcissism and of dictatorial, totalitarian behavior on the basis of wanting to feel better than somebody else, and that happens a lot. I mean, as you can see in the United States, a large portion of your tyranny occurs within what they say the Bible Belt, and they say, and I talk to people and I'm like, man, I was in Oklahoma. I was like, man, I didn't know it was so crazy in Oklahoma. The second time you get caught with any amount of marijuana, it's automatically a felony, 2 to 10, and enslavement of that magnitude. And and they said, well, it's the Bible Belt, and I thought, the Bible Belt, isn't that supposed to mean that Anyways, the point is that we've got more this time. We've got more this time. The founders couldn't foresee nuclear weapons. We've got more to keep us from falling that far. But if we do fall that far, we will all die. So that's not a very comforting thought either. Anyways, However, the point is that things have to change. I mean, half a million people fought and died during the Civil War, or died. 4.5 million people volunteered in the North alone, and this is to end slavery, for slavery to reemerge, again right now, and it's just not. It's just not a very honorable thing, considering all the hundreds of thousands of lives that were costed by this whole process. But anyways, I don't know if I really want to go into much more today, but the point is that we have to change. We have to stop slavery. We have to stop drug prohibition. We ultimately we have to. Because this is what's going on. Violence is going up. The purity of these drugs continues to go up. Overdoses are occurring. In Florida, they just passed a law that said you can't own a pipe. Now, did you know that if you can't own a pipe of any kind, I'm saying not even a tobacco pipe or a corncob pipe would be considered illegal. No bongs, no water pipes whatsoever. Even if you don't have any residue of marijuana on the pipe, it's still a felony in Florida as of the 1st of July 2013. So that's some useful information if you stay in Florida. Anyways, the point is that, as a result of that, you've got shared needle use is going to go up. Needle use is going to go up. HIV is going to go up. So anyways, I mean, the point is that this has got to stop. But another thing that I was going to say, the press. Well, you don't hear about this in the press. You don't hear about drug prohibition problems, hardly ever. Occasionally you will, but really it's a rare thing, and in my opinion it's horrible. Well, here's the reason why. The press was, in my opinion, the press was established to keep the country in check. Well, not the press, freedom of speech, but they call it freedom of the press too. But the point is that when something happens, the press reports it to the people. They become informed. They vote accordingly, and then during the next election cycle, things work out. Well, what happens is with drug prohibition. Here's a theory that I have. Drug prohibition has been getting incrementally more vicious, more severe every year. Every year, more people are arrested for drug crimes, and throughout the course of the last 40 years, the actual punishments for drug crimes have been getting more severe. This is a fact. I'm reading a book on it right now, and I believe it was during the Clinton administration that capital punishment became an available option for certain types of drug, quote-unquote, drug crimes. And it's just costing life on a massive scale, man. I mean, it fractures my emotional wherewithal at times. It literally, I start thinking about it, and it's just like a nightmare, man. I just feel like, how could this even happen? I look out, I see skyscrapers, I see, beautiful infrastructure and things that have been created from, us having a second chance to reestablish another civilization. And it just flies in the face of what you see. I mean, technology alone has increased over 200,000 times over in the last 20 years alone. It's actually on an exponential growth curve, which means that every 18 months, technology doubles. So if you take a penny and you double it somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 times, you have tens of millions of dollars. And if you double that 20 times, fairly needless to say at that point that you're looking at Star Trek, USS Enterprise level technology just kind of just happening all of at once, and people say, I remember when I was a kid, and we had these simple things, and man, look at the technology, but the government continues to deteriorate as if there was nothing to lose, and it just boggles my mind. Oh, how can this happen, guys? I mean, I know there's somebody out there listening right now. Please answer me this question. How can this happen? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. If you could comment in the comment section, please answer that question. How can this happen? Get this out to every important person you know. Every important person you know. How can this happen? How can we not appreciate it? Appreciate what we have by doing the lawful, good thing, to establish the rule of law. And anyways, the point is that well, it's a crazy world, man. It is a crazy. Oh, I'm just sitting here thinking about it right now. I'm looking at this flat screen television right in front of me, and this thing was probably $600-700. It's like probably 36 inches across, maybe 24 inches high. And I'm sitting here looking at this thing, and I'm thinking about a television my grandmother used to have in her living room with a screen that was smaller than this, and they paid $3,500 for it, and it probably weighed 800 pounds. This is in my lifetime, I mean, literally, we are becoming an entity of the highest iota of the universe. We're talking trillions of stars here, building blocks of life cast all through the universe. I mean, we got to assume there's some kind of life form out there besides ourselves, I mean, I'm not trying to get out there into Cookville here, but I mean, seriously, just logically think about it. Okay? Now, the point is they're obviously, up there. There's somebody up there who's probably looking at us, and they're thinking, wow, they're really about to reach the highest levels, We're talking like warp drive, like go to one level of the universe, go to the other side of the universe. And why? Why engage in corruption while this is occurring? Can you answer that question? Why give in to material possession when those materials that you're trying to possess will no longer be available if you do so? You'd be much better off if you didn't. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense anymore. I mean, even if it ever did, it never did. But it's so frustrating. And I'll just say this. Man. I'm sorry, it hurts sometimes. But the point is that I mean, we're going down a scary road, and we're going. I mean, this is the downward spiral. Okay, you can call it a slippery slope, whatever. It's crazy, man. It doesn't make any sense. We can't. We've got a large brain. There's no reason for this. You can put 2 and 2 together, right? It's 4, right? Then there's no reason for this. If you can put 2 and 2 together and say that equals 4, then there's no reason. It doesn't make a bit of sense. So, what I want to say is what seems to happen along with the drug prohibition thing, and this is a theory. Not that it even makes any sense. It's just, you hear information, we used to hear information about the Iraq War. Oh, 2 or 3 people died today in Iraq. You don't hear anything about it anymore. I think that once things happen, and have happened for so long, and the precedent has been set, that the news media's main objective is to set a new precedent, and then it just happens, and then it doesn't get resolved, and then the media just leaves the subject matter alone as it continues to unravel. because they're not there to protest. You know, I mean, what they're essentially doing is, even if they're well intentioned, they're covering the news on a daily basis, and then they're diverting themselves on the basis of the notion that it is distasteful to continue. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you, it's just crazy out there, you know. I mean, it's just, you know, we walk on two legs, we stand upright, we've got a large brain. There's no sense of it. So, anyways, I mean, yeah, sure, you know, the snowball effect. You know, yeah, you know, one shot can set off an avalanche. I mean, you know, all these kind of, you know, visuals that come to my mind, you know, a domino hitting another and just continually falling down. I mean, it kind of symbolizes the nature of government in my mind. You know, I mean, it just seems like one thing leads to another, and nobody's really in control as the whole situation continues to devolve and collapse. But the problem is that at some point self-preservation is going to have to come into play. You know, I mean, basic logic, I don't know. I mean, that should, you know, the point is that at this point there's no sense of it anymore. I understand the nature of government. I understand that it's natural for the government to continue to fall apart. But at this point, it seems that the situation is that it should be natural that the government starts to go in another direction. You know, the situation with drug prohibition, I'll just go into that for a minute. I mean, Mexico, I mean, come on. In December 2006, Felipe Calderon declared war on drugs or whatever. And they had 260 deaths that year, and drug prohibition related deaths that year, and they tallied the numbers themselves, and then it continued to go up every year until it was 14,997 for 2009-2010. And then the government just quit releasing the numbers. So we don't know how many people are dying a year now. I had an acquaintance of mine that went down for some dental work. I don't know if he just didn't know what was going on. I happened to be reading through the local news and found an article about him going down there and disappearing. You know, he had a daughter. I mean, crazy, man. Crazy thought, you know. But that's what happens, you know, and I've read reports, you know, on CNN about tour buses being taken off the side of the road by a drug cartel and taken to pits, caged pits, like Mad Max, the movie Mad Max. I mean, this is like the movie came true, and forced to fight each other to the death with pickaxes and hammers. Okay, yeah, it's pretty serious. It's not actually joking. Type of scenario. This actually happened. You know, I mean, can you imagine if you had to find out about like your mom and your dad being forced to fight each other to the death with pickaxes and hammers? I mean, can you imagine how upset you would be? I'd kill somebody myself over that. I'd go down there myself and I'd try to find out who did it, and I'd just start killing people. And I know that I would get killed, but I would lose my mind if I had to think about it. So, you know, situation's getting worse. You know, we supported that, United States. You know, not we. I mean, somebody supported it with our money. You know, drug prohibition goes down bad, man, and there's consolidation at the top with these banks. Uh, it's the quote unquote Federal Reserve, basically really effective marketing uh, title for that entity. What it is central. It's how China, they say they have central government planning and centralized government. That's what it is. It's centralized. It's a centralized government. Each bank gets a certain amount of stock in the money supply, basically. If you want to go in, I mean, and then they have that much of a vote in what is done with your money, and that's in secret. So this isn't like Congress has no authority to oversee it. Thomas Jefferson himself stated that to take a single step concerning what was at the time was referred to as national banks, but I think the title has become so normal that they've referred to central banks. But regardless, what they're referring to is centralized banking, and what he said was, to take a single step beyond the boundaries of Congress is to take control of a balanced field of power no longer susceptible of any definition. When you reduce congressional oversight to zero, and then you start giving banks, voting authority over the money supply in secret, it's pretty easy to see how that's going to go downhill pretty fast. Just like what happened in the housing collapse. I mean, they prepackaged bad loans to people who didn't have them coming. Then they resold the loans, so they just kept getting higher. I mean, the corruption of the system is getting much and more rampant, much and much more overt, and you can see that with drug prohibition too. I don't think that one causes the other. I think it's just an overall, slow collapse of society. I think it's normal, natural, if that's what you want to call it. But it's going to have to become unnatural because there's way too much to lose, and there's way too many nuclear weapons. So we're going to have to unnaturally start going in the other direction, or actually, what's natural is going to become unnatural because we're going to die. We're all going to die if we don't resolve this. Because once nobody's in control, man. Once the CIA has so much authority and control right now, it's not even under any branch of the legitimate government whatsoever. It's not under Congress. It's not under the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It's not under the military. They're an entity of themselves, in and of themselves, with government backing, and they do a lot of drug running and stuff like that. Not that I'm against drug running, but they supply the drugs that we go to prison for. So why is because it'll never happen. The drugs are going to come in anyways. So they decide to get involved so that they can control who gets it, because the banks launder that money, and that's a known fact. Wachovia got caught laundering $376 billion in 2011 and got slapped with a $120 million fine. Actually, it was $160 million, and this has actually happened, and nobody went to jail. HSBC launders drug money. HSBC has been involved in drug-related corruption since the 1800s in China, but that's what it actually means. It's Hangshai Banking Corporation. But anyways, the point is that well, anyways, I mean, what's happened has happened. They got that central bank in place through lobbying. I mean, they funded Woodrow Wilson's campaign, and then he got in office, and then they got their bank, centralized monetary centralization. And you know what? That is like, it could have been predicted easily. I mean, because here's the fact. You know, the natural order of things is for the government to gain while liberty yields, just as Thomas Jefferson said. Why not? Why wouldn't it happen? I mean, why wouldn't people with large amounts of money that they actually hold they hold for us, so that it can be kept safe somewhere, so that we don't have to worry about hanging on to it. Keep it over here. And that guy takes your money and he loans it out to somebody else. He's going to do that. So that's that's part of the arrangement. And then he makes money on the loans. And as long as people don't go and form a bank run, then he didn't have to worry about it. Well, they got fractional reserve banking now, so they don't have to worry about it anymore, which is another form of the corruption that's starting to take hold. But the point is that man, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time holding my thoughts together. But the point is that why wouldn't it happen? I mean, seriously, just think about it. Even if every single person in the United States was completely educated as to how this occurs, why wouldn't it happen? It's money. It's not your opinion that really counts at the end of the day. It's who's in power and how do you get in power? Well, you get in power. I mean, it's pretty easy to see that resources could assist that process. And another thing, we did have a pretty good delegate elections process until this year, 2012. If you go to did scripted rules change cause a civil war within the Republican Party, type that. And the original video has been removed from YouTube. But what happened was they went in and Ron Paul was running for president. His strategy was to accumulate delegates, which to me is pretty commendable, because I don't think the popular vote is actually. I don't think it's the most effective strategy anyway. I mean, you've already got consolidated media conglomerates feeding lies to the masses of people on a daily basis. How would you ever expect a majority of people to go out and vote in a given direction that's in their best interest when they're misinformed? Not only that, but we've also turned to a welfare state, which happened during the collapse of Rome as well, which basically assists the collapse of society, because hey, if this guy's giving me free money, right, and I don't have to work for it, which he thinks is free, it's not free, then that's a bribe. That's, hey, come this way. You won't have to work anymore. Well, unfortunately, it would be a wonderful world if nobody had to do anything. And maybe one day we'll get there. But that's not anywhere in the near future. And it's not a tenable option. So it's unfortunate, but there's a natural order of things, and sitting around drawing a check on somebody else is not on somebody else's hard work, so that you can sit around and be lazy is not tenable. That's dead weight on the economy, first of all, and another thing, it's malicious because it's a bribe to come in a certain direction. And that's going to assist the process as well. So you know, the point is what they did was they went in during the scripted rules change, and Ben Swan is the only person I saw even report this. You know, Alex Jones didn't even talk about it. Pisses me off. And you know, he should be talking about this every day. You know, pisses me off, man. But you know, somebody you should have seen this on television, at least once. But they took Judge Napolitano off the air while this was right before this occurred, so that probably was part of it. But regardless, the elections process was overthrown that night because John Boehner stood up in front of the congregation of people and said, "We're going to overthrow the elections process." Or basically what he said is that there was a new rules change, which basically stripped Ron Paul of his delegates. You can watch the video and see all the specifics of it yourself. But as Ben Swan explained, he said, "This is the most controversial and sweeping rules change in elections process history." Okay. And he said Ronald Reagan came in as an outsider and won because of this, because these rules were in place, because the delegate aspect of our elections process. Well, John Boehner stood up in front of the congregation of delegates and said, everybody who agrees with the rules change, say aye. And then a certain number of people go aye. And they said, everybody who disagrees, say nay. And then they said nay. And he said one more time. And then they did it again. And it was like, and then he goes, the nays have it. The rules change goes into effect. And it never even hit Congress. And I'm sitting here I'm tripping, man. You know, I need to create a YouTube channel that just talks about that every single day, man. Because it's like, if nobody else is going to do it, I guess I got to do it, you know? And I'm not even an established media person. I got some YouTube videos I put on, you know. I mean, I get a few views, you know what I mean, with some different stuff. But you know, I'm not in a position to get that information out there the way it needs to be gotten out there, you know. And I'm so disheartened to know that it's not even happening. Just, you know, So I mean, they stripped the entire elections process that night. What little choice we had in this government, which really the choices should be established upon the Constitution. I mean, technically, you know, for a pure form of freedom. But you know, they almost made violence inevitable that night. So anyway, that's all I got this time. You know, I guess, you know, comment and let me know what you think. Come back and check me out later, and get the word out there on some of this stuff if you can, especially especially in relation to all of it, but drug prohibition. It's getting crazy out there. That's all I got.